This is the new Garmin Instinct 3 and this is also the new Garmin Instinct 3. Now, both of these are Garmin's latest outdoor wearables for those of you who are a bit more adventurous, want something more rugged with an epic battery life, a solar charging option, and have also been a fan of the previous Instinct 2 watches. Now, I've been using the AMOLED and the solar version of the new Instinct 3 for a few weeks, and in this video, I'll talk about their designs, their specs, specific features for outdoor activities, real-life battery tests, GPS accuracies, to find out if Garmin have really delivered with the all-new Instinct 3. Before I jump into the nitty-gritty details for both of these watches, I just wanted to talk about the pricing, colors, as well as options available for the new Instinct 3. So there's three versions available. There's the Instinct 3 AMOLED, which as the name suggests comes with a new AMOLED screen in either a 45 or 50mm display. Then there's the Instinct 3 Solar with a solar charging battery, again with a 45 or 50mm display. And lastly, there's a new Instinct E, which is a heavily stripped down version of the Instinct 3 AMOLED with a MIP display. Now, I've got the 45mm AMOLED version here in this neotropic color scheme, which I really like, and the 45mm solar version here in this twilight color scheme is what Garmin calls it. Now, I won't be covering the Instinct E in this video because it's something I wouldn't normally recommend, just because it's got all of the amazing features removed from it just for the sake of price. Right, let's talk about the design of the Instinct 3, and the first thing that came to my mind when I unboxed this was the word chonks. I mean, these are fairly thick watches to wear, and that's due to this rugged casing made of polymer, which is basically hard plastic, for that rugged outdoor look and feel. And speaking of outdoors, I quite like these exposed screws right in front of the casing. It kind of enhances that rugged outdoor look, and both the solar as well as the AMOLED version have this exposed aluminium bezel sandwiched right in between the casing for that enhanced protection whilst you're doing outdoor activities. And there's 5 buttons on both of these watches, and they have this rubberized feel to them. They're fairly tactile to press and are quite substantial, and I've personally liked using these, and I don't think I've pressed any of them by mistake. And for the solar version, you still have the smaller inner display, which is kind of separated inside from the rest of the main display, and that shows some additional information or icons when you scroll past different glances on the watch. This is largely similar to what we had on the older Instinct 2 watch. Now, the AMOLED version also has that smaller inner circle, but it's more of a digital feature rather than it permanently staying on like it does on the solar version. Now, whilst we're on the topic of displays, this is actually the first time Garmin have implemented an AMOLED display in the Instinct lineup, so colors do look punchy here. Contrast is great and animations look much better than before. But the biggest drawback here for me is that this display is actually not a touchscreen, so you're kind of forced to use these 5 buttons to navigate through the user interface of this watch, which I personally think is a massive missed opportunity for Garmin. The display is also chemically strengthened, which isn't marketed as Gorilla Glass, and this is going to be inferior than sapphire crystal glass in terms of durability. Now, the solar version has a memory in pixel or MIP technology, which stays on all the time, has a lower resolution, and has no color. Now, the battery on the solar version is even more enhanced thanks to Garmin's Power Glass feature, which can charge the battery if you've got decent sunlight conditions. And one of the main differences between the AMOLED and solar version is that you've got this solar intensity widget or glance here, which actually shows you the amount of flux or the intensity of the sunlight it is exposed to, and you can see this live here on the solar version of the watch. I think it's pretty cool. Now, there's a big difference in the storage capacities for both of these watches, where the AMOLED version gets 4GB of internal storage, whereas the solar version gets only 128MB of storage. Now, both of these are good for 10 atmospheres of water resistance, and at the back you've got Garmin's proprietary suite of sensors. And interestingly, this is the Elevate V4 or the generation 4 of the sensor, which came out a couple of years ago and even was part of Garmin's Forerunner 265 series. But it's confusing because Garmin released the Phoenix 8 just a couple of months before the Instinct 3 launched, and that had the latest generation 5 of the sensor. So it's quite bizarre why Garmin stuck with generation 4, an older sensor for the Instinct 3. And one of the coolest features of the Instinct series makes a return on the Instinct 3, which is this actual LED torch on the front of the watch. And there's 3 levels of intensities for the white light, and it's really easy to kind of flick between these levels. You can see the changing intensity here, and you can also then flick it to a red torch for certain emergency conditions, which is really cool to see. Right, let's move on to some of the software features as well as apps that are useful for outdoor activities. And at a high level, you've got the sunrise and sunset timing glance here, which has this really cool graphic and also shows the astronomical and nautical dusk and dawn times. You've also got moon set times here and the different phases of the moon, and the watch will show the forecast for a few days in the future as well. There's also a compass, and you can actually lock the heading you wish to head towards by pressing this top right button, and the watch will then show deviations from your intended heading with this red bar across the compass, which is really useful. You can also add your nearest or favorite beaches here in the Tide app, which will then show you the times for high as well as low tides. Oh, and there's also an altitude acclimation feature here, which can help you track your body's acclimation to elevations and manage altitude sickness. And there's also a barometer and altimeter, like again many recent outdoor Garmin watches. So diving a bit deeper into outdoor specific activities, you've got the expedition mode here, designed to maximize battery life during extended outdoor activities such as multi-day hikes or expeditions. You can set the intervals for the watch to record the GPS track. By default it's set to once every hour, but you can adjust it to as low as once every 15 minutes or increase it to once every 90 minutes. Now, tactical mode makes a comeback here on the Instinct 3, which can track your location using GPS, changes in elevation, and display your current coordinates in 2 different coordinate systems. And you can change the coordinate system to be displayed fairly easily in the settings. Now, there's also something known as Sight and Go available here, which makes navigation to a location that you can see, but it's not immediately accessible due to terrain or any other factor. So on the Instinct 3, you can create a new location projected from the watch's current location, and the watch will then guide you towards that projected position whilst tracking the distance between the 2 points. So another missed opportunity for the Instinct 3 is full topographical offline maps. All you get is this squiggly breadcrumbs navigation on all Instinct 3 models, and I think that is a massive deal here. Given these devices are not cheap by any means, I feel that Garmin should have implemented full topographical offline maps. So I think that is a bit of a disappointment here. So other than outdoor activities, both of these watches are also packed with a bunch of activities that are fairly typical of many recent Garmin wearables. You've also got multi-sport activities here like triathlons, duathlons, and so on. Okay, so let's talk about the smart functionality, and the Instinct 3 comes with a fairly standard suite of Garmin smart features. So this Garmin wallet available here for paying using NFC. You can view notifications from your phone and reply to incoming texts with preset messages. The only other feature that I wish was available here was the ability to download and use music streaming services like Spotify or Deezer, which for some bizarre reason is not available in the Garmin Connect IQ app for the Instinct 3. But other than that, a fairly standard affair when it comes to smart features on both of these watches. Okay, so let's look at battery life, and Garmin claimed that the AMOLED version of the Instinct 3 can last for up to 18 days on a single charge, and the solar version can last for up to 28 days with potentially unlimited battery, provided you've got the right amount of sunlight. Now, I generally don't trust manufacturer claims around battery lives because they're always tested under strict conditions. But in my testing, the AMOLED as well as the solar versions lost around 2% battery every night whilst I was sleeping, where the blood oxygen measurements were also switched on, and around 2% for a mix of outdoor runs as well as indoor strength training sessions. Now, the main difference between the two occurred when I went on a 2-hour hike, where the AMOLED version lost around 7% while the solar version lost 12%. Mind you, this was without any exposure to sunlight, given the grim weather in the Peak District in early March. Now, overall, even after 11.5 days, the AMOLED version still had around 60% battery left, whereas the solar version had 49% battery left. But that's due to me not giving it enough sunlight. And on that one sunny day where we did go out for a long walk, this thing charged from around 46 to 49% battery. So you could definitely make the solar version last longer if you had the right amount of exposure to the right intensity of sunlight. So when it comes to heart rate tracking accuracy, I've already mentioned that this is the older generation of sensors from Garmin, which has two LEDs for optical heart rate tracking, whereas the newer version, which is the generation 5, has even more LEDs for better heart rate accuracy, which is a confusing choice. So I won't really go into too much detail about the generation 4 available here, given I've tested that extensively when I reviewed the Garmin Forerunner 265, and I've used that quite a lot for cycling, outdoor running, hiking, strength training, and all sorts of things. I'll post a link in the pop-out banner right now for you to check that out, and that's a really good video because it compares this generation 4 sensor to the Sunto, Polar, as well as Coros alternative. So definitely check that video out. Okay, so let's talk about GPS and location tracking, and both of these have dual band antenna technology that can latch onto multiple satellites for better location tracking. And I took both of these out for a hike in a gorge in the Peak District in England to test them out extensively. And looking at the tracked route, both of these have caught my location fairly accurately at the start and tracked me quite well along the trail, even in this area with really dense vegetation and steep cliffs on either side of our route. You can see that they've been close to the trail in the map, but occasionally went off a bit, but not by much. Overall, both of these have been pretty good, and I did my best to throw them off completely by taking them into a gorge, but they managed to keep track of my location fairly well. Okay, so let's look at the app interface, and I've talked about the Garmin Connect app quite a lot on this channel, and the interface is exactly the same here for the Instinct 3 with all of the health, performance, and recovery metrics, training programs, Garmin coach plans, which now also include things like strength training, where previously it was just limited to cycling, as well as running plans. Now, one major change that has happened in the last couple of weeks is the introduction of Garmin Connect Plus, which is Garmin's new subscription model, charging users a monthly fee of $6.99 or £6.99 per month for new features like AI powered insights, a new performance dashboard in the Garmin Connect web version, not the app as of yet, updates to the live track feature, as well as a lot of other stuff. But Garmin promised that the core set of features available in the Garmin Connect app will still remain free for all users. Now, I'm personally quite baffled and, to be honest, a bit upset that Garmin has chosen to go down this route, and I think that this new subscription model might not go down well with all of its user base. But I'm going to give Garmin the benefit of the doubt and still use the Garmin Connect Plus for at least 30 days and then give you my full in-depth review to tell you whether it's actually worth paying that subscription or if it's just a money-making scheme like all the other brands are doing these days. So then, what do I think about the new Instinct 3 lineup, and should you upgrade from your Instinct 2? Now, I quite like the design of the new Instinct 3. It's nice, rugged, as well as robust enough for several different outdoor activity types. And for me personally, I like AMOLED screens, and this is a really good implementation by Garmin here, finally available on the Instinct series. Battery lives on both of these versions have been pretty good, and you could definitely get quite a lot out of the solar version here if you were fortunate enough to live in an area with good amounts of sunlight. Outdoor specific features make a comeback here, so you've got tactical mode, expedition mode, as well as sight and go, and several other features. Other than that, I do feel Garmin have missed quite a lot of opportunities to upgrade the Instinct 3. So for example, there's no touchscreen available on any model of the Instinct 3. There's no offline topographical map, which is a confusing choice because this is meant to be an outdoor specific watch from Garmin. Also, the bizarre choice of having an older generation of sensor here, which is old by at least 2 years, which brings me to the ideal person who wants to upgrade to the Instinct 3. I would only recommend this to someone who is sick and tired of MIP displays on older versions of Instinct watches and now finally wants to upgrade to AMOLED displays, which is now available with the Instinct 3. If you are an Instinct 2X tactical user, I'm not entirely sure if this is worth upgrading to if you're not fussed about having AMOLED displays. Alright, so I just wanted to say thanks to all you amazing subscribers and viewers. And to new viewers, don't be shy from pressing the subscribe button, especially if you don't want to miss out on my full deep dive into the Garmin Connect Plus subscription after 30 days of usage, a budget fitness tracker that might tempt you away from your Fitbit, as well as a deep dive into the data coming out from smart rings, sports watches, smartwatches, as well as chest straps. See you in the next one.